One of the things that really interests me in robotics is creating a synthetic brain using physical synthetic neurons. So yeah, of course we can make an AI that mimics the brain. We talked about a whole brain simulation for a fly, which is essentially uploading a fly, and that's another conversation. But if you can make neurons, you can make a nervous system. If you can make a nervous system, you can make a brain. The trick is getting them to respond to the same neurochemical transmitters that our brains respond to. They can be made so similar to our own neurons, they can be interfaced with our own neurons. And that's really great for, say, prosthetics, but it also means you could make a standalone robot capable of learning. Now, there are a few different goals to emulating a brain, the first of which would, of course, be artificial intelligence. You want to create something that is truly intelligent and could look a lot like our own brains. The research development area, so you want to have a model that you can work on that reliably acts like a human brain. Now, these guys crafted synthetic neurons and turned them into a sort of artificial intelligence that's capable of learning. This is a huge step from using synthetic neurons that then report back to a home computer who then makes decisions. The neurons themselves are going to be the substrate of intelligence. Now, you will see synthetic neurons referred to a lot as Memristors. They're kind of the same idea. A transistor is something that can control the current that passes through it. A memristor, on the other hand, is a transistor that has been physically changed when that current passes through it, and a synthetic neuron could have a lot of different characteristics. I've mentioned that some can react to dopamine and epinephrine and other neurotransmitters. One of the things they're going to have to accomplish in order to create something intelligent is going to be responding to some of those neurotransmitters in a goal-directed manner. One of the ways that you can accomplish that is with the classic actor-critic network. The actor is going to be in charge of taking an action, and the critic is involved in evaluating that action. It's not actually too dissimilar from the concept of metacognition, meaning you have something that's capable of doing the task, and then you have to evaluate if it was a good choice or not. They use the system to train an agent, which is represented up there as a mouse, walk through a maze and find the reward. This, of course, does need to be evaluated by a computer. It's not a robot walking around in a little body, at least not yet. Creating goal-directed synthetic intelligences that change their behavior based on the physical properties of their synthetic neurons is something that a lot of groups are trying to do right now. Now, one big problem is that we don't know how a synthetic being would respond to want. We don't know what kind of will it would have. For us, when our homeostasis is a little off, we might want to go eat food or drink water, but for a synthetic being, we might have to train them to respond positively to neurotransmitters. Fortunately, it does seem likely that the goal of all organized systems is to maintain order. Another question is that if we create something that is actually intelligent, what would it think of us? Would it try to gain freedom? After all, the goal of all life is to live for as long as you can and to raise offspring that can also live to have more offspring. If this wasn't the case, evolution wouldn't happen. But if we really wanted to create something that is truly alive, it would also have to be capable of reproduction. This kind of research really makes me question what it means to be alive, what it means to be intelligent, what it means to have will or want, and whether or not something that we made synthetically could have want. And I would say, yeah, I think it could. This field is really at the very, very start, though it's really fascinating to see all the directions that it's going in. And of course, as we know, we can skip the middleman and then just put actual tiny lab-grown brains in charge of robots. That is also an option, and they respond to dopamine in a different way, one that's more familiar to us. I would like to pose a question. Let's say we actually accomplished it. We created a synthetic human brain that is indistinguishable from how our own brain functions, either emulated on a computer or in a physical state in a robot with synthetic neurons crafted into a brain. If it is indistinguishable from a human, the spiking patterns of their neurons or the behaviors they might have, how do we know if it's having an experience or we're just simulating one? At what point would we consider experimentation to be unethical? At what point would we consider giving them rights? Or would us as humanity just continue to say that it's not real? I don't care what you say. It's not actually having an experience. It just thinks it's having one. These are things that keep me up at night, and I would love to hear what other people have to say about it, because it may be a future that we have to consider.